So there you have it. The manhunt is over, but the reverberations from Charlie Kirk's horrendous killing are still being felt. Guns are far less easily obtained in Britain, but anyone who thinks that our politicians or any outspoken political activists are safe should think again. Charlie Kirk's murder wasn't a warning of political violence to come. It was a warning. In fact, it's already here. Just yesterday, 24 hours after Charlie Kirk's death, Labour MP Sharon Hodgson's office was set on fire in a suspected arson attack. The message, 328 days of blood on your hands, was spray-painted on the wall. Earlier this year, 2 homes and a car linked to the Prime Minister were set alight. He condemned the fires as attacks on democracy. And on Christmas Eve last year, former Tory MP Mike Freer, his constituency office was set alight. Mr Freer cited the fire and unrelated death threats when he stood down last year. While terrifying, these incidents pale into comparison to the fate of Sir David Amos.
Police emergency.
Please, quick now. The man is wielding a knife and he's threatening me. He's killed David Amos at Belfast Methodist Church.
Belfast
Methodist Church on Eastwood Road North.
Okay, we've already got units running, okay?
Sorry?
Units are already on their way, okay? What's going on?
I know, but he's still wielding the knife.
In 2021, the Tory MP was murdered at his constituency surgery by an Islamic extremist of Somalian heritage. In 2016, Labour MP Joe Cox was murdered by a white supremacist who shouted "Britain first" just days before the EU referendum. In May 2010, current Labour Minister Stephen Timms survived an attempted murder by Islamist terrorist Roshanara Chowdhury, who stabbed him twice in the abdomen at his constituency surgery. And just today, Reform UK leader Nigel Farage spoke out about the threats that he faces.
What I will say is, if we are serious about understanding what the limits of free speech are, right, and I will say this actually, those people who posted on TikTok, open TikToks calling for me to be killed yesterday, let's see if the police go and arrest them. Yes. Shall we?
So to those who think that Charlie Kirk's murder was just a warning, a precursor of things to come here in the UK, think again. Political violence is already here. And anyone that is prepared to put their head above the parapet and express their sometimes controversial opinion is already in danger. Well, let's get a question from the audience. Let's take a question. Simon.
Hi. Evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you loud. Yeah.
So this is from the Charlie Kirk's issues and the murder yesterday. And it came as a bit of a shock to me, and I think it came a bit of a shock to everybody. We watch him on TikTok every day and watch his podcast, and they were very enlightening. I don't believe in everything he says, but I believed in a lot of the things he said. So my question is, to what extent do political parties and their leaders bear the responsibility for the current atmosphere of hostility and extremism?
All right, so we start with you, Jane Stevenson.
Oh, thank you. It's a really good question. I was really, as everybody was, horrified to see Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated, and the response to that assassination really shocked me as much as the act. I think people celebrating the death of a young father and husband was horrifying. I think as a human race, we are still getting used to the internet. And I think when I was in Parliament, I had someone convicted of making a death threat against me when I was there. It's not what you hope to go into when you start with good intentions. But I think the internet has changed the game for all of us, and it's changed the anger levels and the spread of anger. And I think I'm grateful we don't have guns as readily available in the UK, but I'm sure Barry has had death threats as well. It is part of the job, and I do think the internet has accelerated it. Whether it's party leaders or just the discourse. In the last Parliament, there were certainly Labour pylon campaigns that fueled death threats. I think mine came after they decided to announce that the Tories had voted to starve children, and it was talked about in very inflammatory language. We were actually removing a temporary support measure that had been there when schools were closed to provide a supplement for the free school meal, what kids would have normally been having in school. So I think, sadly, the tactics of politics, I think, have probably got a little bit too heated. But I do think it's the internet. We're not used to using the internet yet. And I think all MPs have that fear.
Christopher, do you think it's the internet, or do you think there's quite a bit more going on there?
Well, the internet is a part of it, and we're not going to, I think, be able to move away from that very easily. And also, a part of me doesn't want us to, because I think we should be able to free, as long as it doesn't cross a line into really violent threats, I think we should be able to have controversial discourse on the internet. And I don't think that's going to change going forward. What should change is what our MPs and what our elected officials are saying, and the level of discourse that they provide. So, for instance, a couple of examples. Sadiq Khan, Donald Trump is like a 20th century fascist. He warned Western democracy was at risk of resurgent fascism ahead of the Trump inauguration. Donald Trump is a racist KKK and Nazi sympathiser, said David Lammy. Now, clearly they didn't mean that, because when Donald Trump got re-elected, David Lammy is now seeing him. But it's the kind of discourse that gets clicks and that gets people interested in your party and hopefully gets them elected. And I think that is repellent, and it's also a really bad example to set, because it does start at the top. And actually, we could all be blamed for a little bit of hyperbole, I think, now and then, but I do think our elected officials bear more of a responsibility to go by the old adage, which is, I might not disagree with what you have to say, but I will defend your right to say it.
Do you know, I've never called anyone a neo-Nazi sympathising sociopath.
Far right, is thrown around like there's no tomorrow. It's wrong.
Into my head to say that. Has anyone done that here? No. It's interesting, isn't it? Barry Gardner.
I probably didn't agree with a great deal of what that young man said and stood for. I'm appalled by his death, and I respect the fact that he wanted to air his disagreement with other people through debate. And that's what he did. And I think we all have a responsibility to fight words with words. Yes, Jane's right. I have somebody who was put into prison because he wanted to decapitate me. And all MPs that I know have lived under some sort of threat or actual physical violence. It is now rated, being an MP is now rated the most dangerous job in the UK. And that's quite simply because there are only 650 of us, and 2 of us have been assassinated in the past decade, with others actually having physical violence. But I think you're right to talk about the internet. I think you're right to talk about the algorithm. But Christo's right. We have choice. We have a choice. And what we can do is we can either always watch the things that reinforce our beliefs, or we can try and watch things that sometimes disagree with what we say. And, people used to say to me, why are you reading the Tory graph? And I'd say, because I need to know what the other side think. And it's really important that we have that discourse where we understand where people are coming from. I mean, quite honestly, Nana, that's why I come on this programme.
Yeah.
I know that most people who watch GB News, and perhaps most of you in the audience, don't agree with my political views.
And on the panel as well. And on the panel as well.
But we love him, though, don't we?
Yeah.
Come on, he's all right.
The reason I
they
come
don't.
here is because I take those views that you have seriously, and I want to be able to debate with you and provide respectful and serious counter-arguments to them. That, I believe, is what Charlie Kirk was doing.
I think he was,
and
yeah.
that's the tragedy of this situation.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why I listened to James O'Brien. Right, go and tell her.
What?
James O'Brien on LBC.
I thought he said that. Oh, no, I think everybody on the panel thinks the same way. I myself have received a number of death threats, and it goes with the territory. It just goes with the territory, and you can't live your life in fear. And it's clear that Charlie Kirk didn't. He spoke about the threats. He spoke about the danger, and he went out very publicly, very openly. Prove me wrong. He wanted people to disagree with him. I was at the Red Vigil this evening. On Whitehall. There was more than a couple of hundred. There was a good couple of thousand, 3,000 there. And what was interesting, I was actually talking to a chap next to the chap from the New Statesman, who is a left-wing journalist, and he was saying he was really surprised. He was expecting the crowd to be much smaller, but also to be energised by what Charlie Kirk was saying, to be anti-abortion, to be this, to be that, the things that Charlie Kirk believed in. And what he found was, he'd been talking to a lot of people, what he found was, no, they were there just for the free speech aspect and the fear of that. But whilst, in the last week, we've had a senior Labour official describe Farage as Hitler. We've had a senior minister with the backing of Number 10 describing him as somebody who supports Jimmy Savile and paedophiles. This is the language which is going on here, and this is the language that creates this sort of violence. I know Farage, everybody laughed when Farage had milkshakes thrown at him, but I tell you what, until that liquid hits your face, you do not know what it is.
Yeah.
And when you have a comedian the next day, Joe Brand, on TV saying it should have been battery acid. It's not just politicians.
No,
it's
right.
not just politicians.
Yeah.
And so, whilst I don't think we should ban people from saying things they wish to say, and I don't, but they do have to take some level of responsibility. We believe in free speech, even the ability to be vile.
All right. Well, listen, Geraint Towler, thank you very much. My brilliant panel, Barry Gardiner, Jane Stevenson, Christo Fufas and Geraint Towler.